Great, so it's Tom and Jerry here, talking to you about another aspect of the Financial Times Guide to Business Training that we've had published. And I think one of the things that we're really quite passionate about is the fact that a big part of the book is focused on two things, isn't it? It's on how you engage participants in your training, not just a few participants, but all of them. And the second thing is, once you've delivered some training, what can you do to maximise the learning transfer back into the workplace environment?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there's lots of different learning styles and models, isn't there?
Yeah.
But we were lucky, actually, during the development of this book, we managed to have an interview with Peter Honey in his house. Delightful guy.
Absolutely.
And he gave us some really interesting insights into learning styles. And we've included his Honey and Mumford's learning styles in the book specifically, because they're the most recognised learning styles model in the world. And also, we think they're a very practical model to think about in relation to making sure that trainers are really flexible in the way they design and then deliver training.
Yeah, and I think Peter Honey was very clear about a few tips that he had to make sure that they were practical. And it was really interesting actually to hear how a lot of trainers tend to use learning styles in a way that isn't as effective as it could be. So the whole learning styles model builds on the work of Gregory Bateson and Kolb and so on. So there's a huge amount written and researched about it.
You better tell them what the model is, Tom.
I better. So it outlines the fact that an individual will prefer to approach learning in a combination of ways. They'll probably lead with a particular approach to their learning. So they'll either be an activist, a pragmatist, a theorist, or a reflector.
That's right.
And indeed, most learning and development professionals are aware of those styles. In fact, most have already completed a questionnaire so that they could probably tell you which preference or preferences they would lead with.
Yeah, and one of the key issues, one of the key messages we wanted to leave with you in this little chat is that what we notice when we're working with other trainers on our Train the Trainer program is that a trap you can fall into is that your own style can unconsciously infect the way you design and then deliver training. I mean, for example, we are both activist pragmatists.
Absolutely.
That's both our styles. So we're very similar in that respect. Not so lots of others, but in that respect we are. And so, I'm just thinking about one of our clients, which is an engineering company, highly technical people. They are experts in their field, and they're definitely not salespeople or anything like that. And in order for me to be able to deliver a good program with them, I do a lot of work with this organisation, I have to really almost flip my own style, because they have to be paced into doing activist, pragmatist stuff. They're much more reflective theorists.
Yeah, and I think what's really important there is that, first of all, two things. One is that we unconsciously infect our design through our learning preference. So it might be that as activist pragmatists, we're very full on with exercises. We're less worried about the research and the theory and more focused on what are you going to do, what are you going to take action with, and what will work, what's pragmatic.
And so with this group, what I learned is that they need time to reflect, to sit back and think, well, okay, what have I learned from that? What could I then do that would be practical and useful, that fits into the model and the process that I've already got in place? And if you don't give them space and time to do that, then they almost feel bombarded. They almost feel put upon, don't they?
Yeah.
And so, you've just says for me, it's all about flexibility. This whole thing is about being flexible. In almost every situation, you're going to have people with different styles in the room, unless you've got a very, very specialist group. And the flexibility is to be able to create something that isn't necessarily, a reflection of your own style, but does reflect the fact that there are different styles in the room. So you've got to have things for each different style.
Each of the four. And in fact, as Peter Honey said to us, what's really important is that all learning styles are covered. In a training. So if we're activist pragmatists, we need to be aware of a few things, don't we? We need to be aware of what does the content that we're trying to train, what does that require in terms of learning style focus. So if it's skills building, it's no good majoring on theory. We need to include some aspect of practice, pragmatists, activists, that kind of thing. And equally, even with skills building, we need to build time in order to allow for reflection and to give relevant theory and understanding. So it's the combination of all 4 styles that's important, and not just leading with any particular
exactly.
style.
And
I think the other thing that's really important that we learned from Peter and the conversations we've had with him is that often learning styles is included in a business training session, but it's done almost as an icebreaker. So very scant attention is paid to it. So it's felt like what you do is you learn about these things, and then that's a kind of box ticked, and then we're on to the real content.
Yeah.
Whereas what Peter would say is that in that room that you're training, there will be people who don't like to, or don't prefer to reflect. And therefore, as soon as you introduce a reflective exercise, they might feel a tension, they might feel that actually they're not gaining the value. And so one of the things to proactively do is, once you've got that common language of there are these 4 styles and now you know your preferences, you signpost. We're going now into a section which is now a little bit more about reflection. Those pragmatist activists, you may not feel as comfortable, but it is really important as part of your learning. And so it's signposting.
You could flag it up, but they don't even need to know. No. So a great program will just include the 4, reference to the 4 styles already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully you got a sense of the importance of learning styles as part of your delivery. If you want to find out more, it's all included in the book. Final message, Tom?
Yeah, final message is that we gained a lot of insight from Peter Honey, and we've included a summary of his conversation with us in the book, and there's also a link to Trainer Styles questionnaire. So we would encourage you to give us feedback. We'd encourage you to ask us questions about anything to do with the book, but particularly from this session around learning styles and how you use them as a trainer. And we'd encourage you to look into joining us on our Train the Trainer programs. So for now, thank you very much for watching.
Thanks a lot.